All right, let's. Today, I want to cover a topic that's been a fascination of mine for years. Ever since I saw a YouTube video where somebody took a speaker and put cornstarch on it and then played some sound through it, some music through it. The cornstarch took the shape of the sound. And that's sort of what my appetite is to how is matter affected by sound. I always loved music, and when I used to get migraines, I used to play certain songs and play with the bass and the graphic equalizer a little bit to get certain like vibrations or frequencies that would kind of actually literally vibrate my head a little bit. Surprised I have any hearing left, and to sort of like just try to get rid of the headache, right? Most people that have been watching these podcasts realize I got started into natural health care because of mind altering migraines I used to get. And chiropractic was the thing that was the biggest help by far. But before that, I'd stick my head against a dishwasher when it was working, play music. And it got me interested over years to find sort of what was vibration actually doing? Like, how does vibration affect matter? And working in patients with work comp injuries, we know that vibration can be detrimental, that over long periods of time, people working by vibrating machinery causes all kinds of fatigue and damage to their body. So on one end, it can heal people. On another end, it's destroying people. So obviously, it's a powerful tool. And when used properly, it can get something accomplished in our bodies. So that made me explore a lot of different avenues. I'm going to share kind of like some of those with you today, some of the healing modalities associated with vibration. I'm not really going to get into music too much. That's a whole nother lecture. Music therapy is an amazing thing. And that's probably another podcast. I'll get someone that's musically inclined, but much more than I am, a musician on here maybe that is also into healing with music. That'd be a good podcast for the future. But I mean, let's look at what vibration is. Now, I looked up some definitions of it. One definition that I found probably the best way, this is get into a light physics lesson here, bear with me, an oscillation of the parts of a fluid or an elastic solid whose equilibrium has been disturbed, a mechanical phenomenon, periodic or random. So a force in a sense. My vocal cords are vibrating and I'm moving air. And that air motion, that motion through the molecules of air, remember you can't hear in a vacuum, so that there's mass to air, it's pushing against your eardrum, it's hitting those three bones, which is then tapping into the hearing apparatus, and we neurologically hear that as a sound, and the different frequencies are sort of the speed of that force going through the air. Now, light is a form as well, right? Light is an electromagnetic wave. Vibrations of electric and magnetic fields is one of the ways of looking at what light is. Some of them are millions of times per second. So the frequency of matter moving in sound is very low. The cycles per second, or the vibrations, and in light it's extremely high. So we don't hear light, we hear sound, obviously. And color is the frequency of visible light on an object that reflects back to the eye. So when we see a color, we're seeing a certain frequency of light coming back that is reflected from that object. Depending on how it's made, it has different color to it. Now, when we hear things, there are frequencies of sound that obviously we can't hear. Everyone knows that dogs will respond to certain frequencies that the human ear can't pick up on. The interesting thing that I found is that Einstein said that matter was frozen light. Okay, so that's kind of a mind-boggling thing to consider. If you think about if all of the matter that we have around us emanated from light, so is it possible the sun shining on the earth over time created and reorganized and altered matter to the point, the light was altered to the point of becoming matter, but in a frozen state? If you look at outer space, one of the most amazing things, and I think I've brought this up before, is that water is usually in outer space blasted in such heat that it's vapor and it's disturbed. It isn't even water anymore, it's just H2O. Or it's frozen solid into ice, and that life necessitates water. People will study planets, and if there's no evidence of water on that planet, we don't bother looking for evidence of potential life on other planets like Mars and such, where they think there was water at some point. But you need a very small temperature range for H2O to actually be in a liquid state. So vibration has been shown to organize matter into specific geometric shapes. So different frequencies of sound. If you took sand and put it on a very slippery surface, or salt, and create different sounds, you'll actually see the shape of different geometries. And when we look at the human spine, it has, the three basic curves: the neck, the middle back, and the low back. That is by vibration of hitting the ground. We form our initial curves when we crawl. So every time we hit the ground, that's in a sense a vibration coming through our body, and our spine bends into a certain curve. Then when we stand up and we go on 2 feet, we make the other curves in our body. So between crawling and then walking, the vibration changes the shape of our body. So right from the start, vibration is shaping us. So it makes you wonder, at what point does vibration not shape us? And it turns out that point is never reached. Vibrations are constantly shaping our body, making us stronger or weaker if the vibration is excessive to the speed at which we can alter or catch up with the adaptation of that vibration. So someone working at a vibrating machine, their body is fatigued out to the point where it's actually torn almost microscopically, almost like somebody that works out too much and doesn't rest enough or have the right nutrition. They end up sore or they end up injured. But the right amount of vibration with the right amount of time to heal creates a stronger body. Most people realize that osteoporosis is the thinning of bone because the body isn't getting enough force put through it. Obese people have less osteoporosis than thin people. Why? Well, their body has force because of the body weight, and that force thickens the bone. So if you take somebody and you increase the force load on their body, their bones get thicker. Not only their muscles get stronger and all the great things of exercise, but the bones actually get thicker. So imagine someone standing on something that's vibrating. That would create a density because the body is being shook, and bodies adapt. Just like you form a callus on your foot if your shoe doesn't fit right, your skin is saying, okay, that's a friction, let me adapt to that and build something. Your body can build bone in a callous way, which is a bone spur if things are not done properly, or just in general, things are done properly, like walking and running in the right amount of force to become stronger and thicker. So when you look at all this, we're affected by vibrations all the time. So in therapeutic manner, can we use certain vibrations to create very specific changes in disease? Well, it turns out, we can. One of the ways that we do that is the use of a vibrating plate. A vibe deck or a vibe plate is something that has a metal surface. You stand on it, and you can change the vibration frequency and create different force loads that match up with certain parts of the body. I have one at the office. It has a stretching cage around it so people can actually stretch under different vibrational frequencies. And it feels really great. The beginning of the frequency is around 20 cycles per second, so 20 vibrations per second. And that moves blood and lymph, they find. Research has shown that. And when you get up around 45, it starts to affect muscles, joints, tendons, cartilage. And when you go up to 60, which is the highest that one goes, you're shaking bone more, and the bone adapts to that. And we thicken bone. So we put people on there to accomplish different parts of their body stimulating, in big ways. When you get to higher frequencies than that, that's when the organs start to kick in. So we know that music has a load of different frequencies, and a singer can sing, and if she has the right, I usually say she because it's such a high voice usually, can actually shatter glass, right? We all know the little wine glasses that can be shattered with a high voice. And that can be done with machinery as well, creating different frequencies that are disruptive to the molecules of certain matter. Tuning forks are the next one. So you can take a tuning fork of a specific frequency and create a vibration that runs through the body, and it's going to vibrate the tissue of certain densities. Imagine if I had something very thin, like a branch, and I was holding it up, and I had a tuning fork, and I hit it, and I held it close. I might be able to get that branch to shake with a tuning fork of a certain frequency. Now, if I have a steel pipe, that's a different kind of object, right? It's a different density, it's a different strength. It's going to take a different vibrational frequency to get that to shake. When you get it to shake, you're vibrating the molecules of the pipe or the branch. And when you do that, you're exciting them in a sense. So you're stimulating them. And if you were to do that long enough, you would actually break those tissues down, that pipe and or that branch. When you do it to the human body, since it heals, you're stimulating those tissues. So there are different tuning forks that can have different frequencies for each of the different organ systems. And real briefly, I'll show you, this is a kit that I purchased a while ago, and it just comes in this kind of wrap. It's called the Human Tuners, and each one of these has a different frequency and a different organ system. So I would just randomly grab one. This is the liver one. It says liver on it. On the other side, it's 317 cycles per second. So you hit this, and I think you'll be able to hear that vibration, right? That has been shown to create a stimulus to the liver. There's been a fair amount of research associated with this. There's some science behind it, which is interesting. Some of this is obviously theoretical, but there's also people that have spent some time looking into this. And it isn't just tuning forks that vibrate the body. There's a lot of other things, but this is a book called The Song of the Spine, which I thought was interesting. She is a classically trained pianist who's also a chiropractor, and she uses tuning forks on different vertebrae that are associated with different organs, and the different size of the vertebra vibrate at different frequencies. So you can put the fork on this vertebra, you grab another fork of a different frequency for another vertebra, and by stimulating the vertebra, you stimulate the nervous system that's sitting right in there. And the idea is to produce a stimuli. One of my favorite things when I give talks is to say that I've found the cure to all disease and the cause of all disease. And I certainly think that's a bold and crazy thing, but it gets people to listen. And then I explain that what I'm saying is that the cause of disease is stagnation and the cure is flow. So let's try to find where we're stagnating and create flow. And I've gone over this in other podcasts. So if you can create a stimulus to a tissue vibrationally using sound or a shake of some type, which is what the Vibe Deck does, a standard Vibe plate, you can get the body to wake up in specific areas, right? Because we live sedentary lives, right? We're not challenged physically. We're sometimes challenged emotionally, but very specifically. We don't get a myriad of emotions often through a day. A lot of people, say that their lives are boring or they're not stimulated, so they're doing wild stuff. They're going on vacation and jumping out of airplanes to try and create that stimulus. What I'm saying is specifically to each organ, we could do stuff to do that. Now, this is a book, once again, Human Tuning Forks. It's about tuning forks. Interesting book. You can probably see the author there. We can put these in the links. But there's a lot of information out there to get into this, to make sure that we are creating a stimulus to the body that's proper. There was some research done a while ago about what frequency the body in general vibrates at. And to say that each of the organs has a different frequency is interesting, but how about the whole body? Well, they tried to figure this out, and they used some pretty sophisticated equipment, and they came up with 62 to 70 megahertz is the frequency of the body. And when the body is at that frequency, it's at its optimum health. Lower frequencies were associated with disease. So when the body got slower and the vibration changed to a lower frequency, the disease states were more common. In higher frequencies, people were optimally healthy. They found that certain viruses and bacteria became like opportunistically involved in those lower frequency bodies. So you think about as someone ages and they have a lot going on hormonally that isn't so good, and they're diseased, they're maybe not eating properly or drinking enough water, their vibration, or they feel sluggish or slow, that would represent a lower vibration in the body. Their ability to fight disease in those states would be less. And then the person is taken over by infection. The co-infections and the comorbidities in people are all in the news these days. So we want to be able to get to frequencies that are high. The higher frequencies are done with basically doing healthier stuff as well. So if we want to just increase our body frequencies to these 62 to 70 megahertz frequencies, the simple way of doing that is to just be healthier, right? Do healthy things. If we want to take a specific organ and stimulate it, there are specific frequencies used in the tuning fork scenario that can shake those. And when we do those vibrations properly, we produce nitric oxide. And I always tell people to look this up. Nitric oxide is one of the most healing chemicals that your body can produce. When the body is healing, it is usually associated with a high production of nitric oxide specifically to the area that's injured. With the proper stimuli, that nitric oxide is enhanced even more. So whether it's a vibrational frequency, whether it is the body getting closer to that frequency, the 62 to 70, either one of those are going to create the nitric oxide that is going to take that cell and make an optimal environment for it to either reproduce itself or basically just mend itself and put itself back together. Because age, diet, physical inactivity, and even negative thoughts, right? I mean, you think of how you feel when you're loaded with bad news. It's heavy. It slows you down. You feel weighted. That you've entered into a frequency that's not as healthy. And when you hear really good things, sometimes you just want to jump around. You're happy. You're light. Your body feels like it can do more. Those frequencies or those energies or that neural state, that biochemical state, however you want to word things, is healthy for you, right? That's going to heal you. Because when you talk about when you use certain words these days, energy, for example, it's sometimes a little spooky for people. It's like, oh, my energy. And energy is something that is what we're made of. The bonds that put us together are energetic bonds. They're electromagnetic fields in our body. They can be measured with meters. They're very real. And when we do healthier things and we create certain vibrations in our body, we're going to be able to go to a place that's healthier. So the cornstarch I mentioned earlier and the ability for sound to change matter, I would like people to look up. You can go on YouTube and look at cornstarch on speakers. But one of the biblical quotes I found interesting is that God spoke life into existence. So you think about what speech is. It's a vibration. Like we said earlier, it's me shaking my vocal cords by pushing air past them and tonifying them at a certain level to create a certain sound. That sound is then entering the ear of a person. And people know about people's sort of mental state by sometimes the inflection in their voice or their tone of their voice. I remember I've had some teachers and professors that were very monotoned. They were usually people that were a little more likely to be depressed or not as healthy. And then I have people with more powerful voices that have more fluctuation in. And we're all reading that stuff, and whether we realize it or not, those are frequencies of vibration that are representative of that person's state of health. I think it was L. Ron Hubbard talked about people's tone scale. And the tone scale was something they used to say, where's this person at emotionally, chemically, physically? Are they healthy, or do they need to change something in their body? People's voices change at different times throughout menstrual cycles. They found that women have different frequencies. Their frequencies go higher when they are at ovulation, and they go lower during the menstrual cycle, beginning of the menstrual cycle, which is actually changing how people view them and how much they attract the opposite sex, which is fascinating. So frequencies and sounds and vibrations have been they're going on all around us all the time, and I think we need to pay special attention to how that works. One of the frequencies I mentioned a second ago was the gait. I talked about was the formation of the curves in the spine. Well, as a baby crawls, you develop the neck and the low back curve, and when you stand up, you develop your back curve. And then when you walk, the gait cycle, that heel strike left, right, is causing another vibration that's forming the curves even more so, but it's also doing what? It's creating coordination in your nervous system. So your nervous system is keeping up and catching each of these, and you're getting the ability to walk in a way that is more coordinated. Coordination works into the brain and creates a stimulus, so the brain then can fire back, and then we have a more athletic approach or a more coordinated fashion. As we age and our vibrations slow down, one of the things we lose is our balance. It's one of the ways that's happening is the overall frequency or vibrational ability of the body is getting slower and lower, and the reaction time slows down. So one of the things that works for that is simply exercising, doing coordinating difficult things, one-footed stance. When I have patients in my office that have problems with balance, I'm always trying to get them to back up into a corner and do one-legged stance for a second so they can touch the walls if they lose their balance a little bit, and just challenge their system. So I want to make sure that you understand vibration affects the body. Vibration can be used to heal. Music is part of that. tuning forks, how we walk, how we speak, all are going to reflect a vibration that enters the body, and that is going to take and turn on or turn off different organ systems. Vibrations have been shown to destroy viruses and bacteria. They help with digestion. The vibration actually moves some of the fluid in our body. Our lymphatic system, which doesn't really have a great pump, the pump is muscle contraction and hitting the ground. So when you go for a walk, that pounding of the ground actually moves your lymph system. The changing of the volume of your lungs moves the lymph system. So once again, the vibration of walking and the vibrations of about 20 hertz moves fluid. That's what the vibration deck, we set it on 20 to move people's lymphatic system and their bloodstream. It even has been shown to improve mental clarity. And if you think about how your brain works, it's electrical fields, and those are conducted through the neurons as they connect to each other. So we have the recognition of something on one side of our brain, and then the name of it on the other side, and that has to coordinate together. If you look at a stool, you say, okay, that's a bench or a stool over there. You know what it is sometimes, but you can't get the word out. That means you don't have a connection between the two sides of your brain there for a second, and your body's looking to find that connection. When it does, then you say, okay, I know what I can name what that is, even though I absolutely know what it is. Vibration creates a stimulus that helps that neurology stay a little bit more aware or awake. So someone exercises, you can say, well, it improves memory. Well, why? It improves it from a circulatory standpoint, a hormonal standpoint, but it also is a vibration that has gone into that tissue, wakes it up, and creates that stimulus. So I want you to try to utilize in your lives the idea that you're going to create vibrations and look into the different frequencies that can be used. Like I say, these human tuners are one for each organ. This tuning fork is I have one that's just specifically 128 cycles per second. And this one is probably the most general tuning fork. If you were to go out and buy one, I would tell you to get 128 cycles because that one creates a general stimulus to the body. And you can hit these and put them on bony prominences. You got a sore knee. You have different systems you want to stimulate. It's probably one of the best universal ones. So 128 cycles, looks like that. It comes usually with a tool, like this little rubber hammer, so you can hit it, and hopefully you hear that vibration. If not, you can believe me, it's vibrating. And that creates enough to get the body to wake up. So once again, the theme of what we do, how do we get body from stagnation to flow? And vibration is one of those ways of doing that, using technology that does that in your life. So, hey, if you like these videos, give them a like. And you can check us out on Christopher University, where we have all our podcasts. We have a class, 28 Days to Optimum Health, common sense, wisdom, logic, all put into that, years of research that I put together to do that. So thanks for joining today, and we'll talk soon. Take care.